Hello there, and welcome to Transformational Insights Demystified podcast. I am your host, Fumilola Asa, a system thinker and a transformational insights translator. Too often, monumental insights are lost in translation because people don't recognize them or they don't know how to apply them. On this podcast, we fix that by sharing transformational insights in practical ways that enable you to make the step change towards becoming a better version of you and to ace your business, faith, personal development, and relationship goals. Let's explore. All right, welcome. On today's episode of Transformational Insights Demystified, we talk about credibility. How credible are you? Credibility is a critical ingredient for impact. It's one that is important to professionals, entrepreneurs, leaders, especially influential leaders, and it cuts across all spheres of life. Anywhere where you need to make impact, where you need acceptance, where you need people to work with you, to accept what you're saying and be able to take you seriously so that you can make a difference. And so it is a critical ingredient for impact and success. And why is that important? You'd ask me, why do I need credibility? But I know my onions. Why do I need credibility? And so I'll paint an analogy for you. I start by an example where a lot of us can relate to. Have you ever been in a meeting where you give an idea, a suggestion, or a solution, and you're sure that this was really great, insightful, and it kind of fell flat? And then shortly after, somebody else gives the same idea. Probably adds a little bit of technicalities here and there, but you are sure and certain that it is the same idea. And it's greeted with instant adoption. Everybody's like, oh, that's a great idea. And, everybody's going like, oh, like this person said, and like that person said. And then you're looking and wondering, what just happened? Did they not hear me? Or why did anyone not realize that I just said the same thing earlier? Another example will be a young entrepreneur trying to break into the market, pitching this high impact, great solution to would-be customers. And for some reason, while there's that general acceptance about how great this solution is, you get that feeling of, who are you? And why should we listen to you? Who are you? And why should we trust you with such a big project? Who are you? And why should we trust you with our investments? And so you'd see in both cases that the missing link is credibility. It is a very critical ingredient for impact. Key definitions for credibility include the quality of being trusted or believed in. It's the quality of being convincing or believable, according to the Oxford Dictionary. Some synonyms that are used with credibility include acceptability, as seen in the examples I just gave. Creditability, the fact that somebody can cash your words. They can draw a check on your promises. Okay? And another one is integrity. However, while integrity is a synonym, I often like to think that there's a distinction between integrity and credibility. For sure, credibility translates to your reputation and authority. It makes you the go-to person for decisions, for ideas in your sphere of influence, in your field. Often people trust a leader, they follow a leader because they feel like you know what you're doing. And so they can trust their vulnerabilities to you. And so if they have a problem with believing that you can deliver on your promise, then you can be sure that they will not trust you with their own vulnerabilities. And so, like I said earlier, there is a relationship between integrity and credibility. I'd like to add a third word into the mix, and that's competence. Competence is the ability to do something successfully or efficiently. You're smart, you know the best solution, you're able to do it effectively. While integrity speaks to the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. Now, I think both of those principles are critical to credibility, because competence fuels credibility. If you don't know what you're doing, there's really no way you can be credible. Yeah, you can pull some moves here and there, but over time, people recognize fluff. And then integrity helps to sustain your credibility. They know that they can trust you when you say something, you mean it. So I think that it's a very critical combination: credibility, competence, and integrity. But today, the focus is really on credibility, as an item. And so how about credibility? Okay, so for me, credibility is great. I understand it. It's important for influence. But hey, I've got credibility. Or maybe not. How do I test my credibility? How do I know how credible I am as a person? How do I know how credible I am in a specific sphere of influence? Because, breaking news, you can be credible in a certain aspect, but maybe you're not credible enough in your target sphere of business, or encounter or endeavor, whatever it is. And so how do you test your credibility level? A few questions that you must ask yourself to see how credible you are as a person. The first one is, who are you? And why should anyone, and particularly your intended audience of today or the future, listen to you? Sometimes it's the hard truth, but we realize that, okay, if I were the audience, would I listen to me? So it's important that you take stock of self, understanding yourself, recognizing who you are, recognizing the unique value proposition that you bring to the table, recognizing the perspective that you offer in the area that's different from the existing offerings, because that is the first ingredient in identifying how you sell yourself to your target audience. And so you must consistently ask the question of who you are. What do I know? Who do I know? Who knows me? And how am I using what I know for impact? Critical questions that you must ask yourself. And so if you ask those questions and you're not convinced at the answer you find, or you feel like there's opportunity to improve that, then the next couple of minutes of this podcast is for you. It's important in credibility that you understand your sphere of influence. Am I just known in my company? Am I just known in my sector of the industry? Am I just known in my geographical location? Am I known in a global stage? And believe me, if you don't want to be on a global stage, if you're known in the locale that's your target, then that's just great. You are credible for your target audience. And so it's always important that you understand your target audience vis-a-vis, your influence level. Okay, so taking this to the next step. How do you grow your credibility? How do you improve it? How do you build it? How do you establish it? How would you get yourself to be that person that everyone wants to listen to? That person that people are willing to take a bet on or to take a chance on? How do you ensure that you're the first person that comes to mind when people are looking for solutions in that target area that you're looking to build your base in? It's important to know that building credibility takes time. It doesn't just happen overnight. Now, some people have, sprung into fame overnight, but if you don't have the right structure behind that, very quickly, they're like a blip on the screen and you don't see them anymore. And so it takes time. It takes intentionality. It takes consistency to grow. But that can be accelerated because if you do it the right way, you can accelerate it. You can get to your destination faster than you had imagined. And so how do you grow your credibility? A few tips I'd like to offer here from experience, personal experience, watching others, and even tips that I continue to use on a daily basis to expand my sphere of influence. Because as you grow and gain grounds, you want to continue to increase and build it like a ripple of a stone that grows and grows wider and wider. And so the first thing I would say is establishing the knowledge. We asked some questions earlier. What do I know? It's important that you document what you know. How relevant is what I know? Am I an SME in, a certain kind of business? Am I an engineer, but in my niche of engineer, this is where I'm great at, or I'm a mechanical engineer in a specific kind of field, or I'm a project engineer for certain kinds of projects. So knowing exactly who you are and what you bring to the table is important. What's the knowledge base? Now you need to understand, how do I grow that? How do I improve that? Because again, to keep being credible, you need to ensure that you're improving and growing and expanding the knowledge base. And so are there trainings you need to do? Are there resources you need to leverage? Are there collaborations that you need to go into to ensure that you have a rounded view of that aspect where you're looking to grow your credibility, so that you can truly and very clearly articulate your unique selling point? The second step is formalizing the knowledge. Very often, people find it really challenging to explain that they are, the SMEs, the subject matter experts in certain fields, because people are looking for documented proofs. And so while you have spent 20 and 30 years of your life in a particular field or doing certain kind of job, somebody who's never met you, like the case in the Bible we say of a Pharaoh that did not know Joseph, finds it hard to follow you as to why they believe that you have done those things. And so you need to ask yourself, the things that I know today, how am I formalizing it? And it's also important that you understand what formalizing means for your target audience. In some places, if you haven't written X number of journals, then you're not recognized in that field. In some places, if you have not written 1 or 2 books, then you're not recognized. In some places, if you have not taken certain certifications and exams that establish a basic knowledge level, then you are not recognized. And so it's important to do the work and understand what formalization means in the context of your target audience or your sphere of influence. And that's very important, because you need to know what is required to validate my knowledge for my target audience. In my blog post, a blog post I wrote a while back around, turning your idea into competitive advantage, I speak to some of the ways in which you can take your idea and turn it into competitive advantage. Sometimes, to formalize your knowledge, you might need the buy-in of somebody who is an established figure in the field that you're in. An endorsement from such a person would make other people think about you twice, because they're like, oh, if this person could get the endorsement of this subject matter expert in this field, then they're worth considering, they're worth giving a chance. Now, the next thing I'll talk about is, and still on that, formalizing your knowledge, you need to document your knowledge. It could be a book, it could be a podcast like I'm on right now, it could be a journal, it could be a blog. Why is that even important? That's because those things can go to places that you cannot go to. So you can sit in one country of the world and, leveraging the global stage that we have today, somebody that is miles and miles away, oceans away, continents away, can pick up that content and say, oh, this person is saying something that makes sense. And so regardless of what the method is for formalizing knowledge in your sphere, in that target field, it's very important that you document, create content, write it down, say it. Just make sure that it's documented. It's important because those things help you to start to grow that credibility. It makes you get into the pool of people that are being considered. Of course, you still need to verify that. Now, the third step is growing your network. It's one thing to be a local champion, the established authority in this small sphere. And you might be shortchanging yourself and the world because you have refused to grow your network, so other people cannot see what you know. They don't have a chance to learn from your experience. They don't have a chance to benefit from your knowledge to solve their own specific problems. Networking is key. If you talk to anybody who has done great in any sphere of life, beyond the core technical skills or the technical tips that they applied, one thing rings true consistently. It is networking, growing your network. And so you need to ask yourself, you need to be intentional if you must grow your credibility around growing your network. You need to get the right people in your corner. And so that begets the question of who are the right people that need to be in your corner. And it's very closely linked to the first, the second tip I gave around formalizing your knowledge. And so you need to know who are your advocates, who are going to speak for you. And so you need to be intentional about getting those people to see your work, to see what you have done, to collaborate with them so that, again, you have access to a larger view. I'm a system thinker and I always think about interactions. There is the exponential effect of networking. You get to know the network of the person you connect. And if you're lucky to gain grounds into their own network, then you have access to the network of their network. So think about the exponential level in which your network grows. And so if you're looking to be a professional thought leader or even a disruptor, you still need some endorsements. And so you need to be intentional around who needs to endorse my work, who needs to endorse me, who needs to know about what I'm offering. And so the fourth step is around ensuring that the bet on you pays off. There's nothing as bad as a very grand opening and then a few weeks later, nobody shows up because they were totally disappointed by what they saw. And so whatever they saw did not match their expectations. And so it's very important that you put in the work to continue to be better and better at what you do. You put in the work to ensure that the bet on you pays off. You must deliver on the promise. You must really remain relevant and you must remain fresh. And so that's like your content. People cannot come to your content, your show all the time and think like they're having deja vu because every time they hear the same things over and over again, or you're using the same examples over and over again. You need to grow. You need to refresh. You need to improve so that you can continue to be relevant. So you must grow your knowledge base. And so, in concluding this podcast, a few questions to ask, a few comments and a few thoughts. You need to be known for something. You need to be known by the right people, which means different things to different people depending on your goals. And so that says that you need to understand what your goals are. Be clear about your goals because the right people changes depending on what your goals are. If you're looking to be a top influencer globally, believe me, you have a larger task ahead of you. If your goal is just to stay within your profession, then that's just great. If you're looking to go across boundaries and have transferable skills beyond your profession or your sphere of business, then you must be investing in the right kind of knowledge that is translatable across boundaries. You must be able to show how relatable what you know is to other spheres. And so again, you must know who the right people are based on your goals. Lastly, just grow your credibility. Apply the steps we've talked about, the tips that we have talked about. And so ask yourself, what am I going to do intentionally in the next week, in the next month or year to grow my credibility? How am I going to improve? Having known where I want to go to, understanding where I am today, what am I doing differently? As you think about that, I wish you a transformational time ahead. Keep growing, keep building, stay fresh, and be the credible version of you. Thank you for listening. You have been listening to Transformational Insights Demystified with Fumilola Asa. To stay plugged into these insightful conversations, be sure to subscribe to this podcast. Also, you can visit my website at www.fumilolaasa.com and subscribe to my blog and engage with other contents on the site. You can also follow me on social media at Fumilola Asa on LinkedIn, at Fumi Asa on Instagram, and at Fumilola Asa on Twitter. I look forward to connecting with you. Catch you in the next episode.